Do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. What's it going to take you? 5 minutes total, please? Greetings from once again rainy Olympia. My name's Bill. That's Maggie right there. And today we're going to talk about simple living simply, and to understand why I think it's so important. Well, I could give you a dozen reasons why I think it's important, but economically speaking, why I think it's so important. I want to give you a little perspective, a little historical perspective. And I'm 75 years old, so I can take you back in time and point out some key events which have led us to here. History is a cause and effect situation. It's a continual series of cause and effect events. You can't do something in a vacuum. Historically, if a country does something, the effect of that is going to be felt short-term and long-term. And we're seeing that today. But you have to be able to go back. Let's go back to post-World War II. Okay. During the 50s and the early 60s, I would say that was the zenith of the American economy. My dad came out of World War II, and in 1953, he and my mom bought their first home. They bought the home for $18,000. Dad was at the time making, I believe, $8 an hour. It was a union job. And he was able to afford the home. He was able to save up for the down payment, and then he could make payments on the home. And my parents never had a lot of extras, but they got by. And for an uneducated ex-soldier, he was able to make a living where they didn't have to, get public assistance or government assistance. We just lived a decent life. And things got better from there. I graduated in 1970 from college, and I actually took with my degree, I came out of college and I took a warehouse job. I took a Teamsters warehouse job making $10 an hour, and I was living fat on the hog. The economy was such in 1970 that shortly, not that long after, by 75, I was able to buy my first home on a Teamsters warehouse job. The unions were strong, man. The unions were demanding a living wage for their people, and they got it. It's people. There's always a group of people that want to talk about the unions as being corrupt, and there was corruption in some of the unions some of the time. But I'm telling you what, they protected their workers, and the workers made a living wage. And so in 1971, we started to see the downfall, in my opinion, of the American economy. In 1971, Nixon took us off the gold standard, and we became a fiat currency. And that simply means that the value of the dollar, or the dollar had value because people had faith in the American economy. At the time, that seemed like a good bet, probably. The economy was booming, manufacturing was booming. We led the world. The United States led the world and showed no signs of weakening. That was 1971. By the late 70s, we started to see a lack of control on industries, a lack of government control on industries. And what control there was appointees who were from that industry. And in 1980, by 1980s, in the Reagan years, we saw the deregulation of American industry, and all hell broke loose. Corporations did everything they could to start making more money for their shareholders. And Reagan got elected on the concept of trickle-down economics, that the richer the corporations were, the more they could trickle down their profits to the workers. The trickle never happened. Because if you can cut off the trickle, then you're going to have more money for your shareholders. It's that simple. It's greed. Okay. And it's pretty much gone unabated ever since. It picked up steam in the 90s. It's still going today. We still appoint heads of deregulatory commissions from the industry they're regulating. And it just isn't working. The banking industry. Let's take you back to the fiat industry, or fiat currency again. Why are we seeing so much inflation today? Why are eggs costing $8 a dozen? You know, why is hamburger the price that sirloin steak was 20 years ago? It's not because there's a shortage of any of that. It's because we have lived under a rising deficit for decades. The deficit in 1970, this is during the Vietnam War, the deficit was $1 billion. Today it's $2 trillion. Okay, that means we spend $2 trillion more dollars than we make as a country. How do we do that? We borrow. Okay, we borrow, and then to pay the money we owe from borrowing, we print money. And here's what happens when you see a huge influx of money all of a sudden hitting the economy. It loses its value. As the American dollar has lost its value, it has been able to buy less. Okay, we see prices rise in response to the devalued dollar. This is pretty basic economics, guys. And there's no getting around it. The unions have been crushed. And so today we see, amazingly, minimum wages at the same level, at the same level as what my dad was making in 1953. So that's the minimum wage today, 70 years later. There is no way to win. No way to win if you're in the disappearing middle class. There's no way to win. It may be too late for people that are in their 50s and 60s who are strapped for cash. I don't know that you can make a comeback. This video is a plea to those who are in their 20s and 30s. Do not buy on credit. This is a country, in fact, I'll say Western civilization. We are a country that purchases with money we do not have things we do not need. Credit cards for things we think we need. We don't, because all we need is water, food, and shelter. Okay? So we purchase things we do not need with money we do not have. We just keep credit cards, 20% credit, or 20% interest rates. You can't pay it back. And then we buy real estate thinking, well, it's just going to rise in value. Well, guess what? It didn't. Okay? And now your investment, you couldn't sell your house for what you paid for it. The old way doesn't work. That's my. You can argue with me until hell freezes over, but I've been there. I've watched this. It is deteriorating, and There's a come to Jesus moment for the American economy, and it's coming pretty quick. Can't keep going like this. Cannot keep going like this. You can't have this kind of disparity between the rich and the poor with no middle class, and the middle class are now the working poor. And if I hear one more person tell me, well, unemployment's at 3%, okay, yeah, what percentage of the people are working 2 jobs just to feed themselves? Okay. It's coming. It's coming. And that's why I think simple living is important. That's why I think trimming down your life to the bare essentials, trimming down your expenses to the bare essentials is so vital. Because things are going to get worse before they get better. You know what history has taught us as far as things getting better? It takes a revolution. It takes a complete junk heap of the old system in order to build a new system that works a little bit better. We're in for a reckoning, guys. Simple living, okay? The only way my level of living right now will not work 10 years from now is if they do away with Social Security. And that'll never happen because it's suicide for any politician who tries it. There would be your revolution if Washington, D.C. tried to do away with Social Security. Guys, if you're in a position where you can cut expenses, do it. If you're in a position where you can get rid of credit cards, get rid of them. Hell, if you're in a position where if your house has equity in it, I would sell it in a heartbeat and find a cheaper way to live. This requires tough decisions. Cheaper way may be living in a bus, maybe living in an RV, maybe living out of your van. But at least you've got the bills down now so you can live each month and you know where food's coming. This is going to call for tough decisions. If you're in a position right now where you can trim fat, start trimming. Because I think we're within 5 years of major upheaval. Simple living. That's why I'm living it. It's one of the reasons why I'm living it. I do not want the stress of worrying about what's going to happen. I don't have stress. Okay, I don't have stress. That's not bragging. I've paid my dues. I owned a home. I could have kept on owning the home and making the mortgage payments and paying for the utilities, and I could have done all that just like every good American worker bee wants to. But I didn't because I think the end game sucks. In the time I have remaining, I want to live a good life free of worry. Simple living. Slow living, minimalism. They're all aimed at the same thing, finding a better way of living. All right, anything to add, Maggie? Maggie's got nothing to add. Over and out. Hey, whether you know it or not, I have a Patreon page. Patreon. You can find it As We Wonder on Patreon, and for as little as $3 a month, you can support this meager effort of mine to send good vibes out into the world. $3 a month, guys.